It's time for Q&A Wednesdays. I'm just gonna pretend this is a normal thing that I do. But I did do 2 Q&As recently, one for Digital Olympus on Twitter. The second one we did as part of a webinar about how to sell to dentists. And we'll release the full webinar in a week or 2, but today I wanted to go through that Q&A, so I'll play that in full in a few minutes, and I want to go through the Digital Olympus questions from Twitter and expand on them, show you what was being talked about, things like that. This is all cold email and sales related content, so stick around. We'll start with Digital Olympus. There were 6 questions. Question 1 is, what's wrong with the majority of cold outreach emails? And I said there's 3 things wrong. Number 1 is lack of a specific target. So you're sending emails out to anybody in a company, or you're selling to everyone. And you might not even know you're selling to everyone. You might think you're niched. For instance, if you're selling to tech startups, that's a dozen niches in one. That's enterprise B2B SaaS, dashboards, consumer mobile apps. All of those have a different way to be sold to. Those are not one niche called tech startups, and they all should be sold to differently. Number 2 is no customization. It's pretty easy to tell when an email is being sent to a huge list. Usually there's bullet points, or there are very generic compliments that could be used anywhere. So customized emails, you can get a much higher response rate there. The number 3 and final issue that's wrong with most cold email campaigns is bad data. Meaning there's misspelled company names, or the company name has LLC attached to the end of it, or it's all in caps, or you're talking to the wrong person. Clean your data, spell check your emails, and you should be good to go there. Question 2, what's the biggest factor for a successful cold email outreach campaign? Being open to change. Everything about your campaign might be completely wrong when you send your first 40 emails, but the market will tell you that. If you send 40 emails and your open rate is 10% and you know you're sending to the right people, then your subject line's broken. Go back, fix your subject line. If you get a 90% open rate, but a bunch of people are telling you that they want to unsubscribe, then your email sounds too robotic and you have to redo it. If you get a bunch of people that say that they already have somebody to do your service internally, then maybe they don't find value in your service, or you're not positioning it the correct way, or they don't hire agency. All of that is learned by sending emails. We can come up with theories all day, but if you're not willing to change once you're in the field, or you blast out to a list of 1,000 with a draft email script, you're gonna fail. That's why I always recommend send to 40 at a time, try everything, different subject lines every 10 emails, rewrite the body if you're getting unsubscribes, and just work the campaign until it's a success. I've said this a few times, a lot of cold email is just bashing your head against a wall until it works. Question 3, what's a good open rate in your opinion? And here are the baseline stats that I tell people on consulting calls, and we actually have this in use for our team at X27 as well. Stats to aim for: an 80% open rate, 20% response rate, and a 4 to 6% meeting book rate. You might see differences in these numbers over time. For instance, some emails might have a 100% meeting book rate if you send 8 emails and you customize every single one. But at scale, let's say you're sending 100, 200 emails a week, a 4 to 6% meeting book rate is right in line with where you need to be. And in order to get that 80% open rate, which is possible, test subject lines until you get there. And in the description down below, we'll put a link to our 50 subject lines to test doc, where it's 50 cold email subject lines that you can just copy paste and try to use with your emails and see how you do. Because every niche has different open rates for different subject lines. Also, if your open rate's low, verify that your people still work at the companies using something like LinkedIn. Some data providers, actually most data providers, have outdated lists and data. And we found that building lists manually is actually the best way to make sure people still work at companies. But if your open rates are super low, the people might not even work there anymore. So just make sure you check. Question 4, where do you look for information about your prospect to personalize the message? 1, I look at LinkedIn and I look for things like, what are they proud of? Did they go to your school? Did they write any good content recently? Things like that. And the second thing is, if they're not on LinkedIn, or there's not a good amount of information on LinkedIn for them, I'll look at the company's website. What is the company proud of? Did they have any big wins recently? Did they work with any impressive clients? Things like that that can be called out in first line. With compliments, it's best to compliment the person rather than the company. And ideally, it's something that the person did for the company. For instance, if it's a marketing person that you're emailing and the marketing team just launched an amazing campaign, call out that campaign. If it's a tech person that you're emailing and the tech team just made a great hire, or the tech person talks about optimizing server load or whatever, call that out, because they're gonna find more value in things that they or their team did rather than, for instance, talking about a marketing win to the director of IT. Number 5, how do you build a list of prospects? Ooh, basic. basic question here, and I'll give you a basic 4-step answer. Step 1, identify who you're selling to. For instance, marketers at hotels. There's an example. Step 2, find a lead pool, usually by Googling. What are the largest hotels in the world? Add that to a Google Doc. Number 3, find the director of marketing for each, if that's who you're selling to, or director of tech, whoever. Use LinkedIn. Director of marketing, Westin Hotel. And then number 4, use a tool like Voila Norbert to guess the email. You can also use Email Hunter, hunter.io. Either one of those works. Identify who you're selling to, find the lead pool, find the director of marketing, use a tool like Voila Norbert to guess the email address. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, question 6. In this age of numerous mediums of communication, why do you think email is the best form of business communication? I like email because it's where most of our clients live for X27. So at Experiment 27, we sell to billion-dollar brands, and we mostly work with agencies. So people that are running social media or building websites or building mobile apps. And they're doing it for these large enterprise companies. The people that we want to talk to at these large enterprise companies do not really use Twitter. They do not really use Twitter or Facebook to sell. They're not even really on LinkedIn. Where they are is email. If we were contacting somebody else, like for instance, we wanted to sell beats to rappers, like my little brother is selling beats right now. He would most likely use Instagram because that's where these people are, or even Snapchat, whatever. You go where your customers are. The best way to sell to local businesses is to walk in or to cold call. You got to think about who you're selling to and then pick the marketing channel that makes it easy to contact them. For us selling to enterprise companies, email is the way to go, and that's why I love email. Speaking of local businesses, I want to show you now the second part of this video, which is the Q&A that I did before the How to Sell to Dentists webinar, which is all about agency marketing and some stuff about how to sell to local businesses. So check that out. Here we go. We're starting the webinar, How to Sell and Not to Sell to Dentists with Corey Kaporian. He'll be on in a few minutes, so in the meantime, feel free to ask me anything, and I will answer it as honestly as I can. We got a question. Is a one-man agency at a disadvantage when approaching enterprise clients versus a larger agency? The large company has no idea if you're a small agency or you're a one-man shop. A lot of it has to do with branding. So if you go and you create a website where it talks about your past experience working for other enterprise companies, and that past experience can come from your job. It's all about however you present yourself. So no, it doesn't matter. If you are going to frame yourself as an agency, though, I would recommend not doing all the work yourself. Try to focus on either sales or production, but not both. I would recommend sales if you're going to focus on one of those two, because you really need revenue to hire the right quality of people. Ben Laurel, how's the art marketing going? It's still in the creation process. The hardest part about art so far is that you can't sell garbage. I spent maybe $80 on this painting. It's worth probably $25, $25. Like, it's not worth anything. This Emperor painting I could probably sell for like $150. But the problem is, I don't want to be in that kind of world. I need to be selling like $25,000 Basquiat prints and stuff like that. I think you could sell them over cold email by just reaching out to people that have really nice offices and like saying, hey, I got this Basquiat for $25,000. You want to buy it? I think that would work. Journey Social Media. Do you just cold call to book an appointment to them later, in person or on Zoom? My cold calling process usually is asking people if they've seen the email. So I'll call them and I'll say something like, big fan of your business. I sent you an email a couple of days ago about social media marketing. Just wanted to make sure you got it. And then they'll say, oh, no, I don't think I got that. What was the email about? And then I'll say, social media marketing. If you just search Alex Berman in your inbox, you at a computer right now? And then it's a cold call, and they're at an office usually, so they're picking up near a computer. And then we can start the pitching process. But that cold call is usually just to get meeting number 1 on the calendar. You're catching people off guard. So you don't want to pitch when people are off guard. You want them to know you're going to pitch them. It's not a 20-minute cold call. It's not even like an 8-minute call. Usually these last like maybe 2 minutes. Okay, Mario McCann says, what are the best practices to keep clients longer than 1 or 2 months? Best practice number 1 is lock them in to a longer term contract. We sell year-long contracts at Experiment 27 mostly. We'd rather build a sustainable system, and you might not see results, or you'll see very, very few results in the first 3-4 months, but then it's exponential growth. That's actually one of the hardest things about running a marketing agency, is keeping these clients long enough to see real sustainable results. Ideally, you're contacting the people that are cornerstone clients for your agency. So when you do land one, you can use that one case study to gain, dozens of other clients. 2 is say something similar to what I just said explaining this, which is you got to frame it for them that it's going to take a really long time to get results. That's only if that's true. The third thing is actually be good at your work. Alexander Kist says cold emails in 2019, trends in future. So I've been trending towards shorter emails, even like 2 sentences. Like for Lorelia, for our video production company, our email looks like, hey, Aaron, really loved predictable revenue. We use it all the time in our business. We spun up a cold email campaign and it works wonders. I would love to make a documentary about you. Mind if I send over a few times to talk further? I think the more customization you can put in it, the better. I think people in general are getting smarter, and I think they're getting smarter in different industries. If an industry has received a lot of cold emails, you're going to have to customize and be more different than everyone else. All right. Ben says, yes, please talk about your presentation process after you've lined up your meeting. Do you do slides over video chat? Almost never. So the presentation process after the meeting, we'll send the cold email, we'll get call number 1. This is very different than what an inbound call number 1 would be. For a cold call, usually this discovery call number 1 is you pitching them. So if you're selling a mobile apps, for instance, you got to have an app idea at least, or a very specific idea of what they can improve. And you have to drive that entire conversation. It's almost completely flipped on its head from what an inbound is, where they're driving you. You're presenting everything to them and you're just going from there. Call 2 is proposal presentation, where you go through a proposal. Call 3 is contract, where after they have questions on the proposal, you make it into a legitimate contract. Call 3, you go through that contract, and they either sign or they don't. And then you just keep going with that process. The big thing there is make sure you have the next call booked at the end of every call. So end of discovery call, say something like, hey, I'd love to go through the proposal with you. That's the next step. How does Wednesday at 2 p.m. sound? And then make sure you drag that calendar invite to the next time while you're on that first call. That way you keep it going. If you found that valuable, I'd love if you would subscribe to the YouTube channel, share this with a friend. If you want to work with me one-on-one in a consulting type setting, that's over at experiment27.com/consulting. If you want to book more meetings for your agency, ideally with enterprise companies or billion-dollar brands, that is over at experiment27.com. I'm Alex Berman, and I'll talk to you later.